Welcome back to Wives Gone Wild. Thank you for your loyalty. What town are you in right now? We're curious where these secrets find you. Here's today's cheating wife story. My name is Harvey, and this is the story of how a single joke ended my marriage. I met Susan at a time when life felt full of endless possibilities. From the very beginning, we both knew one thing for sure. We wanted a big, loving family. Even before we got engaged, we would spend hours talking about our future children, dreaming of the noisy dinner tables and the messy playrooms filled with laughter. I could already picture myself teaching my son how to ride a bike or reading bedtime stories to my daughter. Susan loved children just as much. She would show me videos of adorable toddlers and say, "One day, that will be us." When we finally got married, we didn't want to wait. We had spent years imagining our future, and now that future felt just within reach. As soon as we said our vows, we started trying for a baby. At first, it was exciting. Every month brought a fresh wave of hope, another chance to start our family. We turned it into a little game, playfully guessing whether we'd have a boy or a girl first. Susan brought home baby name books, and we would sit together, imagining whose features our child would inherit and what kind of parents we would be. But then, the months passed, and nothing happened. At first, we shrugged it off. People always said, "Don't stress about it. It'll happen when you least expect it." So we tried to relax, telling ourselves that our time would come. But as the months turned into a year, and then two, the excitement faded. The joyful guessing game stopped. The baby name books gathered dust on a forgotten shelf. Every negative pregnancy test felt like a small heartbreak, and each month weighed heavier than the last. By the beginning of the third year, the doubt had settled in, a silent, unwelcome presence between us. The way Susan's face used to light up when talking about children, that light had dimmed. Conversations about babies that once made her smile now made her uncomfortable. She would change the subject or force a small, tight-lipped smile. We couldn't ignore it anymore. After 3 long years of waiting, hoping, and pretending that time would fix everything, we finally decided to see a doctor. The tests were simple, just some routine blood work and a few evaluations. We waited anxiously for the results, hoping for an answer, something small that could be fixed with medication or a bit of patience. But when the doctor sat us down, his words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Harvey, your sperm count is extremely low. Right now, it's nearly impossible for you to conceive naturally." I sat there, numb, trying to process what I had just heard. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't form a single word. Beside me, Susan stared straight ahead, silent. The doctor kept talking, explaining that I wasn't completely infertile, there was still a slim chance. He suggested lifestyle changes, fertility boosters, and a strict diet to improve my odds. But I barely heard him. My mind latched onto one thing. I wasn't able to give Susan the family we had dreamed of. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole world had collapsed. I had failed, not just myself, but Susan. What kind of man couldn't give his wife a child? Susan told me she wasn't going anywhere. She held my hand and whispered, "We'll figure this out together." But as the days passed, her actions said something entirely different. At first, I thought she was just processing everything, just like I was. But then, the little jab started. The silent disappointment became harder to ignore. I wanted to believe that Susan was just trying to process everything, just like I was. But then, the little jab started. It began subtly. Offhand comments, small remarks that seemed innocent on the surface but carried a sting beneath them. Over dinner one evening, she shook her head and muttered, "I just don't get it. How can 2 healthy people struggle to conceive?" Another time, she sighed and said, "Maybe if we had started earlier, things would be different." They were words tossed carelessly into the air, but each one landed like a knife in my chest. I told myself she didn't mean it that way, that she was just frustrated, hurting. But deep down, I knew better. Something between us had changed. The warmth in her eyes was gone. She started coming home late, always with an excuse. I grabbed dinner with the girls. I just needed some fresh air. At first, I believed her. But then it became a pattern. She spent more and more time away from home, and even when she was there, she was somewhere else entirely. She used to kiss me goodnight. She used to fall asleep with her head on my chest. Now, she barely looked at me. Our home, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, had become unbearably quiet. I would sit in the living room, staring at the pictures on the wall. The ones where we looked happy, where we still had hope. But that hope had faded, and in its place was something colder. One night, I finally asked her, "Susan, are we okay?" She sighed, rubbing her forehead as if the conversation itself exhausted her. "I don't know, Harvey. I just wish things were different." That broke me. I had done everything I could. I followed every piece of advice the doctor gave me. I changed my diet, took the boosters, exercised daily. But no matter what I did, I couldn't fix us. The silence in our home became unbearable. Every time she opened her mouth, I braced myself, knowing another remark was coming. And when they did, they cut deeper than any argument ever could. It's just frustrating, seeing everyone else move forward while we're stuck. Maybe we weren't meant to have kids together. She never yelled. She never outright blamed me. But she didn't have to. Her words carried the weight of every disappointment, every resentment she held. And then, one night, she went too far. We were at a small gathering at her friend's house. A casual backyard get-together, nothing extravagant. Music played softly in the background, and people laughed over drinks. I wasn't in the mood to socialize, but Susan insisted we go. She was enjoying herself more than usual, drinking freely, laughing a little too loudly. I sat back, observing, pretending to be part of the conversation. Then, the topic shifted to children. A couple at the party had just announced their pregnancy, and the group erupted in excitement, offering congratulations and sharing parenting advice. It was the kind of conversation I had learned to avoid. But then, someone turned to us with a warm smile and asked, "So, when are you two finally giving us a baby to spoil?" It was meant as a lighthearted question, a simple, friendly tease. But before I could even respond, Susan laughed. Then, in front of everyone, she said, "Oh, please. Harvey's not even man enough to get me pregnant." Silence. The laughter stopped. Conversations died. Some people glanced at me uncomfortably. Others pretended they hadn't heard. But I had. And there was no pretending this away. I didn't argue. I didn't ask her why she would humiliate me like that in front of people we both knew. I didn't tell her how much it hurt, how cruel it was. I simply stood up and walked away. I wasn't angry. I was done. That night, when I got home, I pulled out a duffel bag and started packing. Clothes, my wallet, toiletries, the essentials. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't staying. I took one last look around the house that had once felt like home. Now it felt like a cage. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. No tension, no passive-aggressive remarks, no forced small talk, just silence. And for once, that silence felt comforting, not suffocating. After leaving, I checked into a small hotel across town and turned off my phone. When I finally turned it back on the next morning, a flood of messages awaited me. Friends who had witnessed what happened reached out, asking if I was okay, offering to talk. Then, there were Susan's messages, one from the night before. "Where are you?" And another from that morning. "Are you really upset about what I said?" It was just the drink talking. I read her words over and over. There was no apology, no remorse, just an excuse. I didn't respond. And when she realized I wasn't going to, she didn't text again. A few days later, she found the letter I had left on her dresser. I stayed through everything, the fights, the disrespect. But if even my greatest pain is a joke to you, then I have no place here. She must have read it. I knew because she started reaching out again, calling, texting, asking to meet and talk. But I was done. I had nothing left to say. Then, about a week later, she received the divorce papers. That was my final answer. Leaving wasn't easy. Starting over never is. But step by step, I rebuilt myself. I moved to a new city, started fresh. At first, the loneliness was sharp. But in time, I learned to enjoy my own company. I let go of the weight I had carried for so long. More importantly, I learned that I was more than my ability to have children. And then, when I least expected it, I met Naomi. She was different, kind, supportive, understanding. She didn't see me as broken or incomplete. She loved me for who I was. We took things slow. I was cautious, afraid of being hurt again. But Naomi was patient. And for the first time in years, I felt truly wanted. A year into our relationship, she sat me down one evening. There was something in her eyes, excitement, nervousness, maybe even a little fear. Then she said it. "Harvey, I'm pregnant." At first, I let out a small laugh, thinking she was joking. But when she didn't smile, when she just sat there waiting for my response, The amusement disappeared. I stared at her, my mind scrambling to process her words. Pregnant. It didn't make sense. The doctors had told me it was nearly impossible. My sperm count had been too low. My chances close to nothing. I shook my head, almost instinctively. That's not possible. My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't help it. My mind jumped to the only explanation that seemed logical. You cheated on me. I'll never forget the way Naomi's face twisted with hurt. But she didn't yell. She didn't cry. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye and said, I haven't been with anyone else. I am sure, 100% sure, that you are the father. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't take any chances. I insisted on a paternity test. Naomi didn't hesitate. She agreed immediately, telling me I could do whatever I needed to feel at ease. Still, as we waited for the results, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on me. If the test confirmed my worst fear, it would shatter me. But if, by some miracle, it proved I was the father, then what? Days later, the results came in. I read them once, then again, and again. You are the father. I must have stared at those words a dozen times, unable to believe them. My hands gripped the paper, my breath unsteady. How? The doctors had been so certain before. My chances had been next to nothing. And yet, here was living proof that something had changed. The next day, I booked an appointment at a fertility clinic. I needed answers. Was this a one-time miracle? Or had my body somehow healed in ways science couldn't explain? The new tests confirmed the impossible. My fertility had improved significantly. Whether it was the lifestyle changes I had maintained over the years, the passage of time, or simply something beyond medical understanding, my body had done what I once thought it never could. I was no longer infertile. And that's when it hit me. If Susan had just been patient, if she had held on a little longer instead of letting her frustration push me away, we could have had the family we always dreamed of. But standing there, looking at Naomi, at the woman who had loved me without conditions, without resentment, I realized something. I had no regrets. My past marriage had been built on pressure, disappointment, and unspoken resentment. But with Naomi, things were different. This time, I was exactly where I was meant to be. I never reached out to Susan after I left, and she never tried to find me. I don't know what happened to her after the divorce. Maybe she moved on. Maybe she had children with someone else. Maybe she regretted everything. Or maybe she convinced herself that she had done nothing wrong. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't care. Some doors are meant to stay closed. I spent years carrying the weight of failure, believing I was less of a man because I couldn't give Susan what she wanted. But the truth is, it was never just about having children. It was about how we treated each other when things got hard. Susan had the choice to stand by me, to be my partner in the struggle, to hold my hand and say, we'll figure this out together, and truly mean it. But instead, she let her frustration turn into bitterness. She let her disappointment turn into cruelty. She chose to humiliate me instead. And that's the kind of thing you can't take back, because words leave scars. And the ones spoken by the person you trust the most, they cut the deepest. I'm not bitter about the past. In fact, I'm grateful. Life gave me a second chance. I found someone who loves me, not for what I can or cannot give, but simply for who I am. Someone who stood by me without conditions, without resentment, without turning my pain into a weapon against me. And as I hold my child in my arms, I realize something even more important. I was never broken. I was just with the wrong person. Life has a way of teaching us lessons when we least expect it. We all go through moments of disappointment, times when things don't turn out the way we hoped. But what truly defines us is not the challenges we face, but how we treat the people we love in those difficult moments. Love isn't just about being together when things are good. It's about choosing kindness even in frustration, about patience, about respect. If you truly care about someone, you don't throw their pain back in their face. No matter how frustrated you are, you don't humiliate them. And you don't let temporary emotions destroy something that could have been beautiful. Looking back, I see things clearly now. Everything happened the way it was meant to. But I have one question for you. Have you ever had a moment in life where a few words changed everything? Something that couldn't be taken back? Let's talk about it in the comments. Your story might help someone else. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, make sure you share it with them. Until next time, take care.